Good evening, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another Wednesday night Bible study. You're at Faith Baptist Church's Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I'm sorry coming at you real quick, but man, it's been a day. Yesterday we had to completely wipe this computer again, so it took me a little bit to get it all set back up again. But we are good. We're here. We're live. You should be able to hear me. All right. We appreciate all of your support on Facebook and on YouTube. Today we see Amanda, we see Brother JW, and we see my mom all liking on the Facebook stream, and we appreciate that. You guys liking over on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Your name's not going to pop up because of YouTube's privacy policies, but we still appreciate you. Let's see. Okay. So, do be in prayer for one another. Let me pull up our prayer requests real quick and just make sure I've got everything we need to be in prayer for. As far as I know, we're still praying for Wayne Robinson, who is, I believe he's been released from the hospital, but I'm sure probably still recovering from everything. So just continue to be in prayer for him. Be in prayer for Miss Christie's sister, Nancy, as Sylvia mentioned a second ago, who is had her surgery today and is no doubt recovering as well. So just be in prayer for all of that. Let's see. I don't see anything else. Amanda said, yes, he has. I forgot to update. Okay. Well, that's okay. Amanda's had a few irons in the fire this week for sure. So be in prayer for whatever this sort of cough is going around the world. I took a turn. Jacob took a turn. Amanda took a turn. My mom took a turn. Josh and Ryan were taking a turn. So just be in prayer everybody starts feeling better pretty quickly. You know, it's no wonder everything goes hot and cold, but that's besides the point. Hello to everybody. Hello, good evening, Sylvia. I'm going to go through here as quickly as I can. Good evening, Amanda. Sylvia switched platforms on us. Okay. Good evening, Ryan. Good to see your name popping up. Let's see. Miss Christie as well. And my mom and everybody else. And good evening to all of you. Well, we are on our final lesson in objects used of God. Like I mentioned last week, from here on out, I think what we're going to do, is I'm just going to sort of let the Lord lead. Doing a Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday night service is what you're taught to do when you're a part of this particular denomination. So I always enjoy Wednesday nights, even when I was physically going to church, I really enjoyed that. There was a special energy for that night. You get to see all your brothers and sisters in Christ who, you're friendly toward and everything. And it's always exciting. Wednesday nights online, they're a little different, but they're still fun. I still enjoy this. But I think, doing an organized sort of lesson, it can be a little overly organized, and I feel like I just need to make room for the Lord, So for a little while at least, we're going to just sort of, on Wednesday nights, there's not going to be a series. We're not going to go through a specific book. We're just going to kind of speak as the Lord leads us. So I wanted to make mention of that to you. Excuse me. Yeah, that cough. But also wanted to make mention to you, we started yesterday morning uploading, or was it this morning? I think this morning we started uploading a morning, let's call it meditation, because it's not a full devotional. It's not like a long thought. It's 2 to 3 minutes at the longest. I think tomorrow mornings it'd be like 1.5 to 2 minutes of just a short video. Thank you, Amanda. It was this morning. Just a short video of, let's see if I can get this where you guys can see it. Okay. Anyway, just a short video of a verse or two and then we take a few minutes to talk about it and give us something to think about as we go throughout our day. And it just helps us to sort of, start the day off with the Lord, set sail with our captain, as it were, that sort of a thing. And so hopefully it'll be something that's encouraging to you. It's available right now. It's available on Facebook. It uploads every morning on Facebook and on YouTube. So wherever you're watching this, you should also be able to watch those in the morning if you're so inclined. And I hope it'll just be an encouragement and a blessing to you is what I'm hoping. All right, that's all that I have. If you guys have something that you'd like for us to pray for, even while the lesson's going, feel free to make mention of it. I'll do my best to stop and mention your prayer request as we're going. So don't feel like that's an interruption. It's absolutely not. So let's go ahead and jump over to our Bible cam. Please put my friend at work on our prayer list. I don't know if it's supposed to be public, so I'm not giving a name, but they have cirrhosis of the liver. Oh my gosh. That's awful. So be in prayer for this co-worker, this work friend, this work BFF. Really going through it. So just be in prayer for them. We might not have the name, but the Lord knows the name, and that's really all that matters. And like I said, everything has reset. So I have to find a good spot for this to go now. Making things smaller is no longer as easy as it was. Oh. I figured it out. Sorry. Okay. I think we're good. So let's go ahead and jump over to our Bible cam. The Bible's gone. Where did our... You can't hear me. Okay, can you hear me now? There we go. Well, you guys on YouTube could hear me. The people on Facebook could not. So it is going to be... I appreciate that. It is going to be a bit of a trial and error for us as we go forward, evidently. But... Ooh, that's so exciting. I found it. Okay. Now, I wonder why that works and the other doesn't. Okay. I'm sorry. I want it to look nice. It's very important to me. But also, looking nice includes being able to see the Bible, which I had up and ready. What? Yeah, that's what you're supposed to be capturing. Why are you not? Because you're not on. I see. Oh, I actually like that. Okay. All right. So, does that look right to you guys? Can you guys see that well? I feel like you're not going to be able to see that very well. I'm going to reset the transformation. Nobody steal my information, please. And then we will, from here, see if it'll work for us. Hey! It's alive! Alright. That's too much. It's blurry. It is blurry. Why is it blurry? I'm going to work on that. See if I can fix that. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know why it's blurry. And then the background is very black. And that's a problem too. I don't care for that. I don't like too much of my information on there, Oh, I know how to fix that bit. Okay. So let's do that. And then that can go like that over there. Okay. So we'll move that back up. Scroll that back down. And then we'll work on the blurriness. I appreciate y'all's patience today. All right. So let's see what we can do about this blurriness. Well, now it's just gone. That's not what you want either. Okay. Okay, is that any better? It's not, is it? It doesn't look any better to me. That's not better. Oh dear, what is the issue, I wonder? Oh, I'll bet it's the... Oh, no. Well, that's going to mess up the whole thing. But it can't be helped, I suppose. Come on. Yeah, you're going to have to be able to see that, huh? I think I know what to do. But it's going to throw everything out of whack. I appreciate that, Sylvia. Let me see. Did that change anything? Maybe when I click done. No? Okay. I changed that before the stream and it fixed things, but also kind of made it wonky. That's not changing anything now, and I don't know why. Oh dear. Well, that's not doing anything. Yeah, that's right. Well, the Bible is very blurry, and that's not... Oh, man, that's not going to work. Okay. I don't know. Okay, is it too large, maybe? Let me try... Well, now it's back to not working right. Well, isn't that lovely? Okay. I can't shrink it either now. This is going to be something... See, using Streamlabs is not... Okay. This is going to be something I'll work on later. Unfortunately. I don't know why you can't see it as well as I can see it. It's very clear on my computer. We're just going to start going through it. Because our last object used of God is not my computer, that's for sure. It's the Ark of the Covenant. So from history scholars to lovers of Indiana Jones films, the Ark of the Covenant is known world round. You've heard of the Ark of the Covenant, even if you don't know what it is. If you're a movie buff, you might think it has something to do with melting people's faces. It doesn't. What the Ark of the Covenant is a box that was built during the time of Moses. They built, along with the rest of the furniture they used to worship God. It's a box, but it's overlaid with gold. It's got specific handles you use to carry it, and only the priests are allowed to carry it. Inside the Ark of the Covenant are 4 objects. It's the bones of Joseph. It's the golden pot of manna. It's Aaron's rod that budded and produced almonds. And it is the 10 Commandments that Moses received from off top of Mount Sinai. And those are all contained within the Ark of the Covenant, and they each represent an aspect of God's relationship with Israel and with his people. I hate that it's blurry. Okay. So when we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, we're talking about this object used of God, and there's so many stories you can go to talk about it. But 1 Samuel 4 is, to me, one of the most fun stories you can talk about when you're talking about the Ark of the Covenant. So during this time in 1 Samuel 4, we're sort of in an in-between phase for Israel, where we have Samuel, who's the last judge, and God's people sort of turning from the Lord and kind of wanting to be like the other nations, to the place where they eventually want a king, which is where King Saul comes in. But here in 1 Samuel 4, we're going to pick up in verse 1, says, "The word of Samuel came to all Israel." Now, Israel went out against the Philistines to battle, which they do all throughout the Old Testament, and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Aphek. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel, and when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines. Now, this always happens when, like I said, Israel is not in a good relationship with the Lord. We see that with even Joshua during the Battle of Ai. We see that with Moses during certain battles as they went through and so forth. And anytime God's people are not in a good place with God, they don't win their battles. And they just don't. And it says they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. 4,000 men lost their lives that day. That's huge, and it's incredibly significant. So after such a terrible loss and horrific tragedy, verse 3 says, when the people were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? So they're asking the question that a lot of us ask when we begin to go through a hard time. The question is, why? Why am I going through this? Why is God allowing me to go through such a hardship, such a tragedy, such a difficult time? Why did those 4,000 men die? Why? And it's a good question, and it's a great question, and it's a fair question. But the thing is, we're going to have to accept the fact that we're not always going to get an answer. Right? Sometimes God has just decided that we don't get to know until the thing has turned about. Then we'll understand when we look back and say, oh, I get it now. I wouldn't have been here if I hadn't have gone through there. And that is sometimes the way life works. That is most of the time the way life works. God has a reason, but he's not always going to share it with you. So they're asking why here, and they're searching for some sort of, answer or solution, maybe is a better word, to what just happened. So their solution to that is, let us fetch the Ark of the Covenant, right here, of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us. So they've decided to have the Ark of the Covenant moved to the battlefield, right? And the reason for that is they said that when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies. So right here we see the problem. And I don't know if you caught it or not, but we did see the problem. The problem is they want an object, something they can see with their eyes, something they can put their hands on and touch, something tangible to save them. Right? They want God to be in an object. Right? They want God to be in a place that they can see. And that's not the case. They say, wasn't God in the temple? No, God is not in the temple. That is where God's people go to get in a mindset to worship God the way they should. Thus the purpose for the temple. That's why God allowed the temple to be destroyed thrice over. So what we see is God's people thinking, okay, the ark is what's going to save us. Because they think that's where God's power is in the ark. And it's not in the ark, it's in God. And that's what they don't understand. But in their ignorance, it says that the people sent to Shiloh that they might bring from thence the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubims. There are two cherubims on top of the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the Ark of the Covenant of God. Now, if you don't know the story of Hophni and Phinehas, they were, at least at some point, very corrupt priests. And we never heard in Scripture where they repented and got right with God. So as far as we know, these corrupt sons of Eli were bringing the Ark of the Covenant because only priests can carry it, and they were priests, but they were very corrupt priests. And it's kind of a picture of where they were. And it kind of pictures the problem some of us as Christians have, is a lot of the same problem that Israel has. Maybe not so much with the corruption, so forth, and the harshness on other people like Hophni and Phinehas, but what we see is our desire to worship God in something tangible. Right? We want to be able to see something. We want to be able to have something we can hold in our hand. It's nice to have the crosses hanging up. It's nice to, some people like the necklaces hanging around. I know we got crosses hung up all over our house, and those are wonderful reminders of the thing we truly worship. But the cross isn't what we worship ourselves. It's a reminder of the one that once hung on the cross and is no longer there. Right? And it's important to remember our worship isn't in the cross, it's in the one who hung on the cross. Right? In the same way that it was important for them to remember they didn't worship the Ark of the Covenant, they worshiped the God of that Ark. Right? So it's important for us to remember that as well. Our God is not one that is tangible. Our God is not one that is visible. Our God is not one that we can reach out and touch somewhere. He doesn't exist in that sort of a way here on this earth. Right? God dwells primarily in heaven. And he manifests himself here on the earth in various ways. His Holy Spirit dwells within us. He is omnipresent. And in those various ways, he does exist here on the earth. But God exists primarily in heaven. So there's nothing tangible for your eyes to behold. Right? And it's that way intentionally because God wants you to believe in him, not because you have to, but because you choose to. Thank you so much for whatever caused that amen. I don't see it, but we appreciate it. Refresh this activity feed. Still nothing. Okay. Okay, so the people sent to Shiloh, bring thence the ark, Hophni and Phinehas. Verse 5, when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout so that the earth rang again. There it is. Thank you so much for... Ooh, that's not what I wanted. I missed it. Okay, I will get this fixed. I might have a test stream at some point tomorrow, so if you see me live tomorrow, I'm not actually here. I'm just testing things out. Anyway, so the people get excited, and they see the Ark of the Covenant, and it reminds them of a time in their history where God was mighty with them, and that all the earth feared the name of Israel because of the name of God. And it was an incredible thing. And they see that Ark of the Covenant, and they remember a time when Israel was feared, but they don't remember why there was a time when Israel was feared. And they get excited about the object instead of the God of that object. Right? And it's not about the objects. It's not about the shepherd's staff that would be the rod of God. It's about the God of that rod. Right? And it's important for us to remember those things as well. It's not about the reminders and so forth on the earth. It's about the God of those reminders. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, "What meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews?" And they understood that the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord was come into the camp. And the Philistines were afraid. And even the Philistines remembered the terror of what Israel used to be when enemies would see something like that Ark of the Covenant. And they were truly fearful. For they said God, and they're using one of his proper names here, Elohim, is come into the camp. And they said, "Woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us, who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods?" Capital G gods. But you see the plurality there because they don't truly understand the nature of the one true God of heaven. These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. So we see again, they're remembering how mighty this God is. And even the Philistines understand more about it's the God of that ark than it is the ark itself. But then they say, "Be strong and quit you like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men and fight." So they have rallied themselves. They have encouraged themselves, and they have strengthened themselves, these Philistines. And don't be mistaken, the world can do that too. They can give themselves courage when they need it, and that's not a trick that is exclusive to Christianity. Although when Christians do it, and they do it properly, and they do it with the Lord, it is certainly more potent, and it is certainly more durable than the worldly kind of steadying yourself is. So they do. They steady themselves. They're prepared for battle. No matter what happens, we're going to fight like men, and if we die, we're going to die like men. And it's an incredible thing that they've rallied themselves behind. They don't have an ark. They don't have a thing that they're trusting in. They only trust in themselves, and they trust in their own might and their own strength. And they go forward and fight, and it says in verse 10 that the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten. Israel was smitten. Even with the Ark of the Covenant there, they still lost. Because, like we said before, they don't understand the true nature of that Ark of the Covenant. His power wasn't, excuse me, his power wasn't in the Ark of the Covenant. His power was in them. God places his power within his people. And the Ark of the Covenant just is meant to serve as a reminder. That's not where the power is. Even Indiana Jones movies fail to understand that. The Ark of the Covenant doesn't hold the power. It's a reminder of where the power truly comes from. It comes from God, and it's given to his people. They've forgotten that. The Ark didn't help them, and Israel was smitten. And they fled every man to his tent, and there was a very great slaughter, another great slaughter. For there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. 30,000 men died on the battlefield. 30,000 messengers sent to 30,000 homes to give those loved ones the grave news that they will never see their loved one again. This is a grave and serious thing. But it gets even worse, because the Ark of God was taken. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. Now they were corrupt, but they were priests. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent with earth upon his head. Those were the symbols of grief and mourning back in those days. You saw somebody that looked like that, you might not think, boy, they've had a rough day. No, you would know they're really going through something horrible. In our society today, we're taught that when you're grieving or you're sad or you're upset, you keep that to yourself because you don't want to burden other people with your sadness. You don't want to make somebody who's happy sad because you were sad. And that's not at all the way the culture was in Israel. If I'm sad, I'm not going to hide that. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm sad. I miss somebody I cared about. And if that makes you sad too, I'm sorry for that. But I'm not going to hide it. Maybe you and me can help each other feel better. They had such a healthy relationship with their emotions that we just don't have today. And this is how this man came, and they knew something was wrong immediately when they saw him. And when he came, it said, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. And when that man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, what meaneth the noise of this tumult? And the man came in hastily and told Eli. And this story, it just gets worse and worse until it gets better. It's like It's a Wonderful Life, only a lot more intense. Eli was 98 years old. He'd lived a pretty good life there, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army. And he said, what is there done, my son? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there hath been a great slaughter among the people, and thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken. And it came to pass when he mentioned the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died. Eli died. He died. It just keeps getting worse. For he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child and near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, the woman that stood by her said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. This was a dark day for Israel. She named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. But I'm not going to leave you there. Aren't you glad for that? I'm not going to leave you at the end of chapter 4, because in chapter 5, we see the Philistines take the ark and they bring it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod, which is one of their cities. They brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon, which is one of their gods. And when they of Ashdod arose early in the morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. So Dagon, not an actual creature or anything, this was a statue. This was something they had sculpted, somebody had made themselves and said, this is what I imagine a god to look like, let's worship this. Right? And so what happened is that God struck that statue in the night, and it fell over as though it was bowing down and worshiping the Ark of the Covenant. And when they arose early on the morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord, and the head of Dagon, both the palms of his hands, were cut off from the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. So understand this. Understand this, that just because God's people have lost God's power, that does not mean that God has lost his power. God is as powerful here in 1 Samuel 5 as he was in the book of Exodus, as he's parting the Red Sea, as he was on top of Mount Sinai, striking lightning and thunder. God is as powerful at any point as he is right here. He is just as powerful. He is God. He says, I am the Lord and I change not. The Bible says he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. God does not change just because life gets tough or hard or difficult or easy. God's power does not change. It's us that changes. Verse 5 said, Therefore neither the priests of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod unto this day. They wouldn't even walk into the building anymore. They were so terrified of Jehovah God, of the God of Abraham and of Isaac and of Jacob. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coasts thereof. And they became ill because of these things and began to die. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, The ark of God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us, and upon Dagon our God. They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them, and said, What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? And they answered and said, Let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about to Gath. And they carried the ark of God of Israel about thither. And it was so that after they had carried about, the hand of God was against the city with a very great destruction. And he smote the men of the city, both small and great, and they had emerods in their secret parts. Uh-oh. Boy, that's not comfortable. Therefore they sent the ark of God to Ekron. And it came to pass the ark of God came to Ekron. These are 3 different cities of the Philistines, by the way. That the Ekronites cried out, saying, They have brought about the ark of God of Israel to us, to slay us and our people. So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, Send away the ark of the God of Israel, and let it go again to his own place, that it slay us not and our people. For there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of God was very heavy there. And the men that died were smitten with emerods, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. Now, we have only a few minutes left this evening, but I want to talk about this very quickly. Notice Israel brought out the Ark of the Covenant, and they suffered greatly. They lost 34,000 men. They lost their leader, Eli. They lost his 2 sons. His whole family is just horror-struck and devastated. Israel is left in a terrible state. And then look at the Philistines. They take it in desecration, in mockery, and it leaves a wave of destruction everywhere it goes. Because God is no respecter of persons. And what I mean by that is it's not about whose side God is on. God's not on Israel's side. God's not on our side. Remember the story with Joshua. Before he goes to conquer Jericho, he goes aside and he meets the Lord. Basically, it's a pre-incarnate Christ. And he doesn't know that's who it is. So he thinks it's some random person walking up to him. And he says, "Are you for us or are you for our enemies?" And the man says, "Nay." He says, "I'm not for you and neither am I for your enemies. But if you'll be for me, then you'll have my blessing when you go." And the reason I'm saying all this is basically to say to you this evening, God isn't for you, but he's also not against you. And I know sometimes it can feel like God is against you, but he's not. And if we will be for God, then we will carry forth his blessing. And yes, sometimes the Lord will have us go through a hardship and we'll go through a trial and it'll be difficult. But if we'll just trust the Lord, you will come to a place, some point in your life where you'll look back and say, yeah, I had to go through that. I had to go through those things because I would have never wound up here if I didn't go there first. God knows what he's doing. He's God. His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. They're so far and beyond us, above and beyond us, that if we'll just trust him and we will choose him and we'll be on his side, then we will carry forth his blessing. It's not about who has the ark. It's about who has faith in the Lord. And the same thing is true here in 2024. If you have the blessing of the Lord, it's because you have chosen to follow the Lord. Well, let's follow the Lord this week, huh? All right, well, that's our lesson for this evening. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Like I said, be in prayer for one another. Be in prayer for these that we mentioned. Let me try and mention them one more time before we're done. That's not all of them. Here they are. We're in prayer for Nancy recovering from her surgery. My mother's work friend, we're praying for her as well. And all the others on our prayer list that you saw in the pre-show. Just be in prayer for one another. And we will be back on Sunday morning for our Sunday school lesson. But I will also be here tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock for a little meditation, a little thought to get our day started with the Lord and his word. So until then, guys, bye.